Learning how to recreate any photo that you see is a very powerful skill as a photographer. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how I broke down and recreated the lighting from this photo of the new John Wick spin-off movie, Ballerina. Hey, how's it going? My name is Jeahn Laffitte, commercial photographer and educator here for Professional Photographers of America. And today we're going to be talking about how we can break down the lighting of any photo that we see. I've done this multiple times in my life and it's an amazing way to learn. And with practice over time, you'll be able to get better and faster and more accurate at recreating lighting of any photo that you see, even without seeing behind the scenes footage of it. Now, this skill is really important, especially when you're in the commercial photography world and your client comes to you with a very clear vision of what they already want. If you've ever worked with an agency or a large brand, a lot of times they bring you a creative brief that you need to follow and sometimes execute to the exact specification they're looking for. So I'm going to walk you through step by step how I recreated this photo, but also the techniques behind it, like light position, lighting modifier shape, the light color, the light intensity, as well as the focal length that they use so that we can recreate everything as best as we possibly can to our client's specification. Now, in this particular example, my client is actually Professional Photographers of America. They said, "Hey, Jeahn, it'd be really cool if we could get a video of you recreating this specific photo." And I was like, yeah, we can absolutely do that. And it was pretty challenging, to be honest. This is a very unique, very unconventional lighting setup, but we're gonna go ahead and break it down step by step so it's really easy for you. And of course, always we're going to start in the 3D software so you can get a very clear layout of what the set is going to look like. Then we'll jump into the real world. All right, so we're here in Satellite 3D and I've blocked out a very basic studio space that matches my home studio here with the same colored walls and floor. And then I threw up a gray background because I think that's gonna give us the most flexibility as far as gelling and color saturation. And you can see I've placed the model about 6 to 8 feet, probably closer to 6 foot in front of the backdrop here, just so we get a nice separation from the backdrop and the background lights aren't spilling on. And we're gonna go ahead and build this out one light at a time. And I'm going to talk you through my process for figuring out how the light position should be. So for the first light, we can see it in this reference image here. It's coming down from the top left and going across the background. Now, I don't know if this background was put in digitally later or if it was all captured in camera, but I'd like to at least get the streak of light coming across here in camera. So what I've done is I've put a background light here, and now there are multiple ways to get the effect of this gradient across the background or this beam of light. But what I've decided to do is just use a standard reflector on my light to get more exposure. And then I put on a 30-degree grid on this light as well, which helps constrain it to the background. So because I can tell that the light's coming from the top left and shining down, I know that's where to put it. And to get the beam of light to be more focused, I know that a grid will do that job. You might also be able to do this with a Fresnel or something like that, but that is what I have on hand, so that's what I'm going to be using. And just for reference, if I have just the reflector on with no grid, it looks like this. With a 10-degree grid, it's really tight, 20, 30, and 40. And I think a 30-degree grid in this particular case works. Now, if you don't have grids, you could also get like some foam board or something, or even barn doors, and kind of make the light focus more forward and kind of block it from hitting the other parts of the background that you don't want it to. But the grid was a very simple solution, so that's what I've done there. And that's probably the simplest light. But now let's move on to the next one. And this one is probably the most important one. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on so you can see it here and then just solo it. So what this light aims to do is replicate what's happening on the right side of her body here. So we've got the shoulder in color and the whole arm has a bright highlight across the side of it and then into the hair. And because of that, I knew that this was probably a tall modifier of some kind. I'm not sure if it was a strip box or, maybe it was a spotlight from further away. There's so many different ways you could approach this, but to me, this seemed to make the most sense. So I have a 1x4 strip box and I've placed it in such a way that it reflects off of the back the way that I would imagine in camera. And the way that I hashed this out was because I understand how reflectance works and how angles of incidence work. So because the light is reflecting and glancing off of her right side and not casting across the rest, I know that it has to be, of course, on her right side and behind her to act as a kicker. So if I move the slide around, we can see kind of how it changes pretty rapidly. If it's in the shot here, we're obviously not getting the effect we want. If it's too far to the right, it's not even on her. this point, so I could point it towards her. We're not getting the same look that they have in the reference here. If we come more around the side, we're getting way too much light on the back. And so it's just understanding the position of that light and how it hits the subject that gets us in the ballpark that we need to be. Now, something else that you may have noticed is I feathered this light away from her. And that's because I don't want the light hitting her left arm here, because in the reference, it's in complete darkness here. So if I turn this back pointed at her, we can see that the light is shining on her forearm and kind of spilling throughout the studio more. So if I feather this away from her, we can see that it stops shining directly on her arm, so we have control there, and now it's just on her back. And then we're getting a lot of light onto this other shoulder and shoulder blade, so I can just tweak the position of that to get it farther behind her until it's exactly where I need it to be to kind of replicate the look that we're going for. And again, we're getting the light on her arm, so I need to feather it away, and there we're getting really, really close. So that's how I hashed out the location of this light. And then the modifier, of course, being a strip box, is just because I know that I want to cast as much light as I can from top to bottom of her body. There very well may be multiple other options for you to get a very similar effect, but this is what I went with. So the third light is going to give us the edge of this dark blue on her left. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn this on and solo this light so we can see it by itself. And you can see what I've used is a large umbrella. You could also use a large octabox or softbox. I don't think the shape of this one matters too much, but the size does. It could also even be another strip box potentially. I just didn't use it because I wanted a bit more of a soft effect. It kind of looks like a really soft filled in blue on this side of her body. So that's what I've done. And again, I've positioned it very carefully so that it's providing just the right amount of edge. So when it's back this far, it's really thin and there's no fill on the back. And when I bring it too far this way, there's just too much wrap around here. The edge isn't defined. And so where I had it kind of in this directly to her left position, it provides a really nice edge look, also giving some fill, and then, you can finesse that later, but I just don't want too much of the arm to be lit up blue, because then it doesn't look quite as defined as the reference here. So that's how I've placed that light. And then for a fourth light, I have this one here. Let me go ahead and solo it. Now, this light is acting as the hot spot of blue on her back. So you can see in the reference that it's darker where this edge light is, and then it's brighter in the center of her back to kind of draw focus there. So that's what this light is doing. I've got a 20-degree grid on it. So let me go ahead and show you without a grid. It'd be filling the whole background. 10-degree would be super tight, which could work. 20-degree works really well in this particular case. 30-degree and 40-degree. So I have a 20-degree grid on it. I think it looked the best. And as far as the position goes, I was really just studying the shadow patterns on her back and trying to bring focus without washing out these shadows, because you can see there's still all of this definition on the body. So if I bring it too much into camera here, we can see that there are no more shadows being cast across the back. It's becoming more flat. And then if I bring it over to the left, we get more shadows, but then you get too far and it becomes too shadowy and starts competing with the other light that we have here. So this one is really kind of this in between. It shows a lot of that light, but keeps a lot of the shadow on the back. And then depending on the hot spots, I might raise it up and I might drop it down to get the shadow pattern that I want. And I kind of really like it right about here, just above her back, or almost basically right in line with her back as far as height goes. And then what I'm doing is I'm feathering it away so that the light's not shining on her face or her left arm competing with that other light we just showed you. So that's what that light is doing. And it was a little bit tricky to figure this one out. I think this was the most challenging light because of the way that it casts on here. It's just very unique. And whatever they did, I'm curious to see because it's absolutely masterful. But that leads us to the fifth light, which is kind of this edge light on the face here. You can see in the reference, it's got a brighter pink hot spot across her forehead and nose and across her fingers here. So that is the next light I'm trying to figure out. So I know because of the rim light position that it needs to be behind her, and it needs to be kind of focused more on her face and not the whole body. So in this case, I used a 2-foot octa. Let me go ahead and solo this. So this octabox is 24 inches in diameter, and I put a grid on it. If I took the grid off it works completely fine, but what's happening is I'm getting more light down at the bottom that I don't necessarily want. I don't see it in the shot here. So if I go ahead and put the grid back on, you can see how it suppresses a lot of that. It makes it less noticeable here and here and provides more centered focus here. And you can see the position, it's above her and behind about 45 degrees or so. And that is how it's glancing off of the edge of where I want it to be, with the focus kind of on the forehead and nose. So if I move the position of this, we can see how it changes. We're getting a lot more light, which we don't want. It's getting on her eyes. If we go back, it gets a little too tight and then it ends up being in shot. So it's just out of shot here. Move back just a bit, and that is kind of how I controlled that edge light. So if I go ahead and turn all the lights on in context, this is what we're left with. And this is the basic set and the starting point that I'm going to be starting with out in the studio. So that is the basics. It's light size, light position, and light intensity in relation to your subject that allows you to recreate anything that you see. It's really studying shadow patterns. Really, the key is looking at the shadows, shadow sharpness, shadow density or brightness, and all of that good stuff is what really makes the biggest impact when it comes to how you can study an image to recreate the lighting. So become familiar with those things. But that is about it as far as the actual previs goes, the pre-designing. So now I have to get a hair and makeup artist and get a model in here to go ahead and make this shoot a reality. All right, so we're here in the studio. I've got my beautiful model, Caitlin, and we had some amazing stylists come in. If you guys wanna jump in real quick. We have Lauren Shea Artistry and Shiloh Techniques, power duo from Colorado, and they did all the styling, and so super thankful for them. Caitlin looks amazing, so we're gonna go ahead. I have the lighting just thrown up. They're not really in position yet, so we're gonna really kind of dial things in and get the pose dialed and all that stuff. So if you wanna go ahead and get into your pose, take a teeny step to your left for me. We can see here in Capture One exactly what's happening. So I'm gonna work one light at a time. And the background light is usually where I start, because that's just what makes the most sense. So I'm trying to match the reference image. I'm gonna go ahead and black out the studio now. I have to use an LED, because I only have 4 strobes and I need 5 lights for the shoot. So if I turn off my strobe trigger, I can adjust my exposure here until it looks the way that I want it to. But let's take that shot and see how it looks. Yeah, we're in the ballpark. So the next light I want to get is the hot spot on her shoulder, which is the strip box. So I'm going to turn that on. Here we go. Just in general, I think the position of that is working really well. So now we're going to turn that light off and this one on. So if I turn on the modeling lamp, you can see where it's pointing, filling in that hot spot on the back and still casting shadows. So we'll see how that looks in solo. That's very close. Now we're gonna move on to this edge light here. And this is really getting the edge around her left side. Might be a little bright. We'll see once we turn off all the other lights. Turn this one off and then we're gonna get this one here. Way too bright. Let's go to power 1. There we go. Okay, so let's turn everything on, see it all in context, and then we're gonna start finessing everything to make it exact. All right, let me turn the video lights off. It's gonna get nice and dark. Perfect. Let's see how it all looks in context. Very close. So it's not exact, but it's pretty stinking close to what I want. So I'm gonna look at the reference. The colors are definitely gonna need some work. See what happens if I just boost saturation here. There we go. So if we bring the saturation up on the raw file, it helps a lot. The purple on her face might need toned down to be more blue instead of pink, but we can do that with a color temperature blue gel. And then we'll finesse the composition and everything, but it's looking really good. Now keep in mind that the final image was probably pretty heavily digitally manipulated, but we can still get really close. So I'm just gonna turn off all the lights except for the edge light and the background light, and we will get them perfected. Bring your right elbow back just a little more so I get that, yep, not quite so much. Back forward just a little bit more. There we go, that's the air gap they have there. That looks really nice. You can tilt your head down a little bit more, kind of lean over. Yep, perfect. And then you're looking down towards the ground. That is super duper close. So let's try that. So I'm having a look of this edge light. I don't want it to be on that left shoulder blade. So I've got to bring it in just a little bit. Let me turn on the modeling lamp actually. That's pretty stinking close. That light's looking almost exact. I might feather it away. Let me get your pose one more time. Sorry, you're gonna be sore by the time we're done with this. So I'm gonna bring it in more and I'm gonna feather it away from her just until the light isn't really hitting her arm, but just her back, kind of like that. So it's not hitting her left arm, it's just grazing her back there. Nice, there we go. So we've controlled the spill onto the left side. It's pretty dang close. So I'm gonna take the power down just a smidge because I can always blow it out in post. So I might take off half a stop. Yeah, very good. I think that's gonna be perfect. So I'm gonna move on to the next light. We're gonna finesse that into place. So I'm gonna focus on this edge light that's, giving her a little bit of fill on the left side of her arm. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this modeling lamp on. I'm gonna turn off the background light too. Now let's see what this is doing here. I want it to just hit her arm and wrap around a bit. There we go. So we're getting that edge that we want, which looks really nice. So I'm gonna turn that light off, and I think the position is pretty good. I'm gonna turn this backfill on now. So this one's really designed to show off. I think your angle's a little too much. Yep, there we go. It's really designed to show off the words and also the contours of the back. So I want to get it right where it's not spilling onto her face, but just onto the shoulders there and on the back piece. So might get it nice and close, just out of frame here. And based on the reference, that's very close, but it's not high enough, so I might need to raise it so the angle of incidence is higher. And point it down. So the finesse here and the genius of the original shot is that they have all the shadows and contours, but also the highlights in the right spot, which is just masterful lighting. So I'm gonna turn both of these blue lights on in context to see how they're working together, because they're sort of working as a unit in a way. There we go. That's looking pretty close. So let's bring in the light for the face. Okay, hit your pose for me. Then I might feather this away and get that nice sharp line around her face. There we go. Now we're getting the separation I want in the color. That is exactly what I'm looking for. That's really cool. Okay, so that light's looking really good. The other lights are looking really good. I think we've almost got it dialed in, so let's turn them all on and see what we have in context. Let's go ahead and see how this looks. Oh yeah, that's sweet. Perfect. So we're just gonna finesse the pose, and I think we've got this mostly dialed in. And I'm gonna actually turn on all the modeling lights now, but just on a very low power. And this will help make sure the pose is dialed in as best as possible. There we go. Now we have full context in the live view. So what I think she's doing is I think her hips are pointed more to the left because you're seeing the curve in the back, but then her shoulders are slumped kind of down like this. And it's not going to be exact, obviously, because her body type's not exactly the same as the actor is. So we're going to kind of get it as close as we can, but not worry about every single tiny detail. But yeah, let's go ahead and get back into that pose. This will be the last hoorah. So perfect, and your hips towards the left. This is going to contort you a bit. That looks really nice. Okay, right there, hold that, shrug the left shoulder just a little more. Good. Bend your right elbow a little. Bring your left arm closer. That's the one, hold it right there. Don't move. Okay, we're so close. I want to try one more time, take a break. She really cranks her neck around, so whoever posed her was going nuts, but I need a little more profile of the side of your face and then we'll be good. And I might need to raise my camera up just a smidge because looks like a little higher up too. But you can kind of see like how this works. It's just a lot of back and forth, a lot of finessing, a lot of little movements here and there. And again, it's never going to be perfect unless you had the same exact model and you knew the same exact modifiers. But you can get very close and your client's not going to know the difference anyway. So I'm super happy with how this is turning out, but whenever Caitlin's ready, she's not like cramped up, we're gonna do one more. So I have the Smoke Ninja Pro here, just on the regular fog setting, and we'll see how much we can get. So the idea with the fog is to get it in front of her and kind of follow the stream of light in the background, like this, and try not to let it come this way. It's gonna eventually fill the room, but try to keep it on this side of her so this is not fogged over, if that makes sense. Okay, bend your right elbow a little bit. That actually looks really, really close. Look down towards the ground. That's it. Go ahead and get the fog going. There it is. You look really good. Get those hips twisted a little more to the left. Yeah, perfect. Looks good. Get that fog filling up that whole background. There we go. Looking super cool. Keep going. If it turns off, just wait for the red to stop and try again.
Okay.
There we go. That's so sweet. Let's lift your chin up just a little. I don't really like her pose being completely locked off like that. I like this a little more. That looks so good, Caitlin. You're amazing. Good work. Let's get some more fog down a little bit lower. Twist those hips for me. That's it. You're slightly in shot, Shiloh. Just bring your arm out just a couple inches. Yeah, good. That looks so good. Hold that there. And just for fun, I think we got the shot look up towards that key light, the purple one. Actually, towards the blue one to your left, my bad. There we go. Tilt your chin down. That is amazing. Looks so good. Holy crap, that's amazing. The fog is perfect too, because it kind of came brown here.
Yeah. Nice.
Woohoo! Good job.
Those are cool. Dang, that's new. That's wild. Can you believe that?
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown and tutorial, and I hope that you enjoy the final photo. Now, it's not gonna be perfect because, well, we don't have the same exact setup, and I never saw the behind the scenes, and we don't have the same model or makeup artist, so there's going to be differences, but that's the beauty of it. Every time you try to copy artwork, you wanna be very careful not to make it exact, and you wanna put your own spin on it. So that is something I highly recommend you do. Go out there, find a photo you really like, and do everything you can to go ahead and recreate the lighting to the best of your ability. Now, we'll never know how accurate I really and truly am compared to the behind the scenes until that behind the scenes comes out, but I'm really excited to see how it goes, and I'm super, super excited to see what you create. So if you learned something from this video, be sure to leave a like and drop a comment below telling us what you would like to learn next, or if there's a photo that you would like to recreate in the future. And be sure to subscribe to the Professional Photographers of America YouTube channel and click the bell icon so that you're notified for future tutorials. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my name is Jeahn Laffitte, and I am excited to see you in the next one. Whoa! Oh!